The classroom door slammed shut, and the air thickened with the kind of silence that carries a threat. Ms. Elena Carter, the new English teacher at Willow Creek High, stood frozen at the chalkboard, her hand trembling as she clutched a piece of chalk. It was her first day, and the group of seniors in the back, led by Jake Malone, a broad-shouldered kid with a smirk that could cut glass, had already decided she was prey. They whispered, laughed, and tossed crumpled paper at her desk. One note landed near her feet, scrawled with cruel words. "Go back where you came from, newbie." Elena's heart pounded, but she straightened her spine. She'd faced worse than a room full of bullies. She'd survived a childhood of loss and hardship, but this moment would test her in ways she never imagined. Elena was 28, with kind brown eyes and a quiet strength that hid years of struggle. Raised in foster care after losing her parents at 10, she'd clawed her way through college on scholarships and late-night shifts at a diner. Teaching was her dream, her way to give kids the support she'd never had. But Willow Creek High was notorious, a place where teachers burned out and students ruled through fear. The principal had warned her about Jake and his crew, kids hardened by broken homes and a town that had given up on them. Still, Elena believed she could reach them. She had to. The first week was brutal. Jake's group escalated their attacks. They mocked her soft-spoken voice, hid her lesson plans, and spread rumors that she was too weak to last. One day, a chair was pulled out from under her as she sat, sending her crashing to the floor. The class erupted in laughter, but Elena's eyes caught a flicker of guilt in a girl named Mia, a quiet member of Jake's crew with haunted eyes. Elena didn't react with anger. Instead, she stood, dusted herself off, and said, "I'm still here. Let's talk about Shakespeare." Her calm unnerved them, but it didn't stop them. By the second week, Elena's resolve was fraying. She'd lie awake at night, replaying the taunts, wondering if she'd made a mistake. The other teachers avoided her, offering pitying glances, but no help. The principal told her to toughen up or quit. But quitting wasn't in Elena's blood. She remembered her foster mother, Ms. Rosa, who'd taught her that kindness could be a weapon if wielded with courage. So, Elena devised a plan, not to fight back, but to break through. She started small. During a lesson on To Kill a Mockingbird, she shared a story from her childhood. The day a foster sibling stole her only pair of shoes, leaving her to walk barefoot to school. She didn't cry or complain. She walked, because giving up wasn't an option. The class was silent, and for the first time, Jake didn't interrupt. Mia's eyes lingered on Elena, something unspoken passing between them. The next day, Elena brought in a box of old books from her personal collection and left them on a table with a note. "Take one. No questions asked." By the end of the week, half the books were gone, including one Mia had slipped into her bag. The turning point came in the third week, during a class project. Elena asked each student to write a letter to someone they'd heard, real or imagined, without sharing names. Most scoffed, but she made it anonymous, promising not to read them unless they wanted her to. The assignment was a risk. She knew it could backfire, but she trusted her instincts. On Friday, she found an envelope on her desk, unlabeled. Inside was a letter from Mia, raw and unpolished. "I'm sorry for laughing when they hurt you. I'm sorry for not stopping them. I'm scared all the time, and I don't know how to be better." Elena's heart ached. She didn't confront Mia, but left a note in her locker. "You're already better than you think. I'm here." Mia's letter was a crack in the wall. The next Monday, Elena noticed a shift. Jake's crew was quieter, less coordinated. She overheard Mia whispering to Jake, urging him to ease up. He shrugged her off, but the seed was planted. Elena doubled down, weaving personal stories into her lessons, her struggles, her triumphs, her belief that everyone deserved a chance to change. She started a question box, where students could anonymously ask for advice or share thoughts. The box filled up, with notes ranging from silly to heartbreaking. How do I tell my dad I'm failing math? Why do people give up on us? The real challenge came during a parent-teacher conference night. Jake's father, a gruff man who reeked of whiskey, stormed in, blaming Elena for Jake's failing grade. "You're not tough enough to handle my kid," he sneered. Elena held her ground, calmly explaining that Jake was capable but distracted by anger. She suggested extra credit, a project on a book of his choice. To her surprise, Jake showed up the next day with a worn copy of The Outsiders, saying, "This one's not stupid. It was the first time he'd spoken to her without malice. But the bullies weren't done. During a class discussion, Jake's right-hand man, Tyler, threw a textbook at Elena's desk, shouting, "You think you're one of us? You're nothing." The room froze. Elena's hands shook, but she picked up the book and walked to Tyler's desk. "This book could teach you something," she said softly, "but only if you let it." She placed it in front of him and returned to her lesson. Tyler didn't speak for the rest of the class, but his usual smirk was gone. The climax came on a rainy Tuesday, 6 weeks into the semester. Elena had assigned a group project, pairing students randomly. Jake, Mia, and Tyler ended up together, tasked with presenting on empathy in literature. They resisted, but Elena insisted, offering to meet after school to help. To her shock, they showed up. The session was tense. Jake was defensive, Tyler silent, Mia nervous, but Elena guided them through the text, asking questions that forced them to think. What does it mean to walk in someone else's shoes? Slowly, they opened up. Mia admitted she felt trapped by her friend's expectations. Tyler mumbled about his older brother's arrest. Jake stayed quiet, but listened. The next day, during their presentation, something extraordinary happened. Mia spoke first, her voice shaky but clear, describing how Atticus Finch's compassion in To Kill a Mockingbird reminded her of Elena's patience. Tyler added, almost reluctantly, that he wished he'd stood up for someone once. Then Jake stood, his usual bravado gone. "I wrote something," he said, pulling out a crumpled paper. It was his letter from weeks ago, now public. "I'm sorry," he read, his voice breaking. "For the chair. For the notes. For making you feel like you don't belong. You didn't deserve it." The class was silent. Tyler's head dropped, and Mia's eyes glistened. Jake looked at Elena. "We were wrong. Can you forgive us?" Elena's throat tightened. She nodded, unable to speak at first. "I forgive you," she said finally. "But more importantly, forgive yourselves. You're not your mistakes." The bell rang, but no one moved. Mia hugged Elena, and Tyler muttered, "Thanks." Jake just nodded, but his eyes said enough. The rest of the semester wasn't perfect. There were setbacks. Old habits died hard, but the dynamic shifted. Jake's crew stopped targeting Elena and started protecting her. Mia joined the book club Elena started. Tyler turned in his assignments. The class began to feel like a community, not a battlefield. Elena faced her own challenges too, self-doubt, exhaustion, and the lingering fear that she wasn't enough. But each small victory, Mia's smile, Jake's effort, Tyler's quiet, "I get it now," reminded her why she stayed. By semester's end, Elena's classroom was a haven. The question box overflowed with notes of gratitude. At the final class, the students surprised her with a scrapbook of letters, each one sharing how she'd changed them. Jake's read, "You didn't give up on us, even when we deserved it. I want to be like that someday." Elena cried, not from pain but from pride. Her story spread through Willow Creek. Other teachers started using her methods: kindness, patience, stories that connected. The principal, once dismissive, asked for her advice. Elena didn't gloat. She shared what she'd learned, that broken kids aren't the enemy, just people who need someone to believe in them. As the school year closed, Elena stood at her chalkboard, no longer trembling. She'd faced the bullies, the doubt, the system that expected her to fail. She didn't just survive, she changed lives. Her message to her students, and to anyone who'd listen, was simple. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest force there is.